Good to be here once again. Here's a disclaimer for this morning's episode. The views and opinions expressed in this episode, just FYI, are really based on publicly available information, resources, and leadership case studies and personal analysis, of course, intended for educational and commentary purposes only. So no statements made in this podcast should be interpreted as legal, financial, or formal investigative conclusions. And all the individuals or any companies that mentioned in this very episode podcast and agencies mentioned remain responsible for their own public narratives and official disclosures. All right, good to be back here again, you guys. Trust is not a soft skill. It is leadership currency. This week, CEOs are collapsing, governments losing public confidence, riots, not to mention, are everywhere on the streets and freeways of Los Angeles and Southern California, employees walking out. Alliances breaking. In this episode, I will be breaking down how trust is collapsing and how you can build unshakable trust in your leadership zone. All right, welcome back to Leadership365. Let's not sugarcoat this. This week, leadership across every sector is being tested and exposed. Boardrooms are panicking. Employees are disengaging, upset, panicking also. Nations are dividing. I mean, the whole world is really on fire as we're speaking right now. And this is just halfway of the year 2025. To be exact, we're in mid-June 2025. The pattern behind all of this, the collapse of trust. All right, guys. Buenos dias. Good morning. Bonjour à tous. Merci beaucoup d'avoir écouté ici avec moi. Selamat pagi semuanya. Terima kasih telah hadir bersama saya lagi, Nicky Dare, the one and only. Saya harap Anda bisa menikmati podcast saya hari ini. If I were in Bangkok, in Thailand, I would say Arun Sawat, Sawat Deka, good morning, Kap Kun Ka. My favorite line, by the way. Thank you for listening here in my podcast. And merci beaucoup to land here, to arrive here in my podcast, Leadership365, where leadership isn't a title, is how you live. I am your host, Nicky Dare. And I just want to, kind of pause here because I want to come back here to Leadership365 studio here and really, truly pick, a suitable fitting title on this, because I've seen just on the news, I try not to, by the way, watch all of the news there is, and I am just so bombarded with a lot of the things that I've been caught up in my projects as well, in my world, right? And try to engage as well what's going on around the world. And it's just so scary as it is to watch every little channel here, and that I'm sticking to one or two that I can trust. Again, this segment is really the first segment of, I want to say 3 or 4 segments today. And then bear with me, it is going to be very quick. As always, I try to make it really high compact and then just effective as well. I know that you have a lot of things in your world as well, in your life. And I, don't want to bore you with this 1-hour podcast. My style, as you already know, exception, of course, if I have a featured guest on my podcast, it will be longer than just 20, 30 minutes of my time, or your time, rather. All right, first segment. Trust is not a soft skill. It is a survival. I love to use that word again and again because it is. In our mind, we got to be, stay prepared, obviously. You don't need to look far. And I'm going to give you some examples here. Again, go back to disclaimer I mentioned at the first part of this episode, of this podcast. That this is all for educational, nothing but. And, we're not going to sugarcoat this, but this individual companies, agencies mentioned remain responsible for their own public narratives and also official disclosures. And strictly, this is intended education commentary purposes only. All right. Go back to this segment, the first one. It is a survival. trust. And it's not a soft skill, right? Boeing, for example. Let's start with Boeing. A company once known for engineering precision is now under federal investigation. But this isn't about defective parts. It's about dead whistleblowers. It's about employees who tried to raise the alarm and got ignored, silenced, or even worse, right? Now, the public's trust isn't just shaken, it's shattered. When we hear it, we see it. As we're speaking right now in Minnesota also, there's a tragedy. I'm not going to get into that because that's a little go into the politics. I'm going to stay into the regular neutral zone here, path here. So, sharing my message to you about trust factor in leadership. Now, the public trust isn't just shaken. It is shattered. Passengers are questioning every flight. Investors are walking. Regulars are circling around. It's like, is this the right move? Is this the right move? Inside the company, morale is, you can imagine, is collapsing, right? People aren't worried about planes anymore. They're worried about survival. They're worried about themselves too. They're worried about what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to my career, what's going to happen to my livelihood, right? This is not about a product crisis. This is certainly a leadership failure, a trust collapse. All right, the next example that I want to share with you is OpenAI, and that's huge. Then there is an OpenAI. Behind the scenes, of course, there is a little understated there, a little rivalry between Elon Musk, with his Grok and movement, and X, of course, you already know that, the X platform, $1 billion purchased to, activate the free speech and then allow the free speech to exist. And OpenAI, this AI with his, rivalry with the founder of OpenAI. I mean, there's a lot of obviously controversy there behind it, and I'm not going to get into that. But I do want to mention that OpenAI, the front runner of the global AI race, it is OpenAI, ChatGPT, right? Everybody's going there, trying to be part of the movement, be part of this, what's going on here, right? Billions invested, billions watching, and yet, participating in trying to get a piece of the action here of the AI race. Right. And yet we saw leadership implode on the world stage, boardrooms chaos, secret deals, leaders getting fired, rehired inside the same week. And this is also about, what is it? About moral, right? We talk about cybersecurity. We talk about, what are the consequences of the humanity of this. Boardrooms chaos, secret deals, leaders getting fired, rehired inside the same week, engineers walking out. Enough of that. Let's say employees wondering who's really calling the shots. Is it about safety anymore? Is it about the money? Is it about the power? No. The world is now asking, can we even trust this company with the future of AI and artificial intelligence? So those of you who are interested in what AI stands for, the acronym that everybody, if you're missing out, artificial intelligence, is almost like part of our daily lives, whether it's personal development, growth, or a career more so, or build businesses. Overnight, a company that was supposed to lead the world into the future lost control of its own narrative. I mean, a lot of us, have foresight on this. I'll talk about this, by the way, in the very first our global roundtable, if I'm mistaken, back in 2020, when we launched our very first global roundtable. We talk a lot about COVID. How is it going to have the post-COVID consequences of all of this global shutdown, affecting mental health, affecting, technology, affecting humanity overall, just around the world, basically. How are we going to deal with this in 5 years? Now we're in the 5 years mark. I mentioned something about that, technology crisis, the collapsing of all of this, really the boundaries of what we call technology with the humanity aspect to it, right? I mean, after all, the robots and machines are being controlled or operated rather, or created, operated, made by the humans. But can we even trust this company going back to the OpenAI, with the future of AI. Overnight, a company that was supposed to lead the world, to lead the humanity into the future, lost control of its own very narrative. Again, this isn't about technology crisis. Is beyond that. Is a trust collapse. Is a trust collapse, I should say. Right. And the next one here is a little bit challenging for me to, because it's leaning towards the politics. But I do want to mention this in this very segment. Is DHS and national security. Look at DHS. Look at national security. High level leaks. Right. Classified information exposed. Public confidence shaken. Americans and frankly allies around the world are starting to ask the hard questions. Who's really protecting us now? Can we trust what we're being told? How much is being hidden behind politics, all politics, the political narratives? I mean, it seems like we, the taxpayers, we're being put in the front runners to pay foot the bills. But then when it comes to transparency, we're the last in the closet in the room. Right? We're the last to know. So this is about whether people believe their leaders have integrity. And right now, a lot of people don't. And I just want to point that out to you. Yeah. Share with you. Again, I mean, go back again to the disclaimer that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. Another thing too, touching on to the global boundaries, right? Global, is Europe's political fractures. There's a lot of fractures. There's a lot of brokenness there. And you don't even have to say in America to see this pattern across Europe. Countries like France, Germany, the Netherlands. I mean, you're watching entire political structures start begin to fracturing. Just like political tension right now, civil unrest, so-called peaceful protests, but that was just on the first day, first 2 hours, first 1 hour, and it became very violent. Now we're in the 2 weeks mark of people in LA, riots and everything, and it's becoming more violent and violent. Just uncomprehensible. I mean, I cannot even put into words in my podcast right now. Just, some media, legacy media, trying to hide all of this, transparency, and the other, such as X platform, are really exposing it, the truths and what's going on out there. Is just duality of this, right? Like I said, I mean, I have no words for this, and it's leaning towards political. And my podcast here, I just want to be, I want to stay in a neutral zone, not unless I want to activate that on my rapid fire, by the way. I know a lot of people say, you're going to have to say when you rapid fire with Nicky Dare. But if you, I want to take a pause on this. If you do go to my X platform, I do have a voice there about politics, especially. But when you do go to my LinkedIn, I'm staying low. I'm basically like, okay, head down. Because I do want to keep it very on the emotional intelligence there as a leader, and people look up to me and things like that. But on my YouTube, I try to shifting it a little bit there on the flavor. As you can see, a lot of my video shorts on my YouTube are really grabbing a lot of traction. On like a 15 seconds or 30 seconds of, breaking news and headline news, and which are very important for people to see and to share, so they know. I mean, it's all about trust. Again, this is leadership, right? 101. So going back to the segment here, in Europe, political structures are beginning to breaking, really to fracture. Voters swinging hard in both directions, extreme parties gaining ground, moderate leaders losing the public's faith. Why? Because citizens feel lied to, gaslighted to. This is how it begins. When there are so much trust that's broken, promises broken, decisions made behind closed doors that don't reflect the people's voice, and gaslighted. That's how it feels, by the way. Once again, this isn't a policy crisis. It's a trust collapse. People trying to zone in and say, oh, it's a policy crisis. It's leadership breaking, broken promises, trust collapse. The common thread, see the pattern? It isn't about failure. It isn't about mistakes. It's about leaders who forgot that trust is the OS here, is the operating system. Again, leaders have forgotten that trust, Trust, trust is the operating system of all of these things, of this ecosystem in the what's out there. All right. So the second segment that I want to highlight on this is in the corporate world. 45% of employees say lack of trust in leadership hurts performance. Many of you have heard this statement, very much so, myself, self-note, that people walk out or quit the job, not because they don't like the job, not because they can't do the job, perform, or things like that, but because they don't like the boss, because they feel lied to, betrayed. I was one. I don't want to play victim in this, but man, there is a huge story behind what I have gone through in the corporate world. That's why I don't want to go back to corporate world, not unless I'm a board advisor or anything like that and created my own, nonprofit or a company, my consulting services company business, because I lost trust in the leadership, and it wasn't by choice that I quit or anything like that. It was just by design. It was just like, hey, don't have to come back here. What's going on? No, we've already given your territory here to somebody else. We decided to, just like that. And it's like, so, well, can I go back there? Well, I don't know if you want to go start all over again, or no, I don't think you should go back. I mean, these are just like common things, right? So 45% employees, almost 50 Harvard employees say lack of trust in leadership hurts performance. Let's bring it back to the personal level, your own team. Okay. According to Tolerance Solutions, and I try to dig this one out, 45% of employees say the number one issue impacting their performance at work is lack of trust in leadership. And we have to hear that again or read that again. That's nearly half of your people may be quietly performing at a fraction of their capacity because they don't trust leadership. They don't trust the boss. They don't trust the people that are upstairs in the building that maybe don't show up all the time, right? Yeah, 45% of employees say that number one issue impacting their performance at work is lack of trust in leadership. It just happened just recently in my household here too. They don't feel safe. They don't believe anyone has their back. Boy, do I know how that feels, you guys. And instead of focusing on their work, the support system that is, on their back, they're spending energy protecting themselves or preparing to leave. Yeah, cutting their own checks, basically. Making sure that the boat and the life safety life vest is only for them, like the Titanic. The financial cost estimates put turnover costs between 150% to 200% of an employee's salary. Yeah, you got that right. Now, I'm not just making this up, the numbers, and check it out. I mean, Forbes even bluntly put it. The cost of having trust issues clearly has a huge impact on a business. That's Forbes. Forbes bluntly put it that way. The cost of having trust issues clearly has a huge impact on a business. That's even, before we even talk about morale, we talk about culture and lost innovation. The talents that have been diminished, the talents that walked away from your building, the talents that have walked away from your team, and then the culture, the morale that have been crumbled, basically. I mean, everybody I think that I know of, my son, myself, everybody that I know of, great talents, have experienced this very thing that I'm talking about in this very episode. So, why leaders are failing and don't know it? Let's talk about that briefly here. Leadership failure isn't happening because of competitors or recessions or bad times in the economy or anything like that. It's happening because leaders are blind to how fast trust evaporates, to educate themselves and to do self-reflection. Perhaps they should hire people like me to have advisors and say, hey, you guys, Leadership365 advocate or a consultant, right? It's because of that, because of the leaders that are blind to know how fast trust evaporates. Most leaders unknowingly destroy trust by avoiding hard conversations. Like, okay, I don't want to, just like in any relationship, have you been into, I'm speaking from my own self experience or self note, where instead of dealing with it, you avoid by walking away. You have to deal with the issues and communicate that and stop blaming the other person of all of the issues that have emerged. Perhaps you're the problem. You don't know that, right? Until you communicate that to the people, to the other person. This is if I'm talking about relationship. Let's say in a marriage relationship. They just walk away and say, like, I'm done. Okay. I mean, you forgot how you started, dude. Been there, done that. Read my book, The Audacity of Veracity. The whole book is about that. Anyway, avoiding hard conversations, shifting the blame downwards, like it's all your fault, over promising and under delivering. And that's common there. Micromanaging. Yes, that's very common. Disappearing when things get uncomfortable. I just said that. Disappearing. Just walk away from the problems. Go away out of town. Go away overseas. Go away from the house. Walk away from the house and then let them deal with their own problems. But you're the one who's causing the problems. When you're the culprit, causing all the problems for people who don't even freaking cut you, and you cut them and you just watch them bleed. That's very, very low life, ghetto, and culprit. I'm sorry. Me, I'm dishonest, and you can always trust a dishonest man to be dishonest. Honestly, it's the honest ones you have to watch out for. Captain Jack Sparrow quote. I just need to throw that in. Me, I'm dishonest, and you can always trust a dishonest man to be dishonest. Honestly, the honest ones you have to watch out for. The brutal truth is, your people don't expect perfection. You know what they expect? Truth. That is a highlight of the year 2025. As I speak to someone who I really truly love, truth will be exposed. Not by us who's seeking truth, but by what they do themselves. But here's the truth. When truth is missing, trust disappears. Damn right. And you cannot blame those people that don't give you the trust. Because we've given you the trust and you gaslight. You walk away when there's uncomfortable conversation. And you blame us who actually, what's going on here? And that's a culprit way. Anyway, okay, so how you build trust under fire? Let's flip it. Here's how you can rebuild trust right now. Communicate early. I'm gonna highlight this, and you guys need to take notes as I'm speaking now, because this is self-note and experience, based on experience. Whether relationship in business, relationship in just personal relationship. Get ahead of rumors. Do your diligence, obviously, and then get the facts before you speak. That's just my personal footnote there. You cannot jump into conclusion and then start, pointing fingers and this and this. That's just blaming kind of department. I'm not really into that, by the way. Next one is extreme ownership. Own mistakes very fast. Extreme ownership. This is one of these things. All of these points, highlights that I'm sharing with you guys are basically the ones that I apply for my parenting style, by the way, to my son. I always tell my son, sweetheart, you gotta communicate early. Take ownership of your mistakes. And I can't say enough that I'm very grateful as a mom that he does these things, by the way. So I hope that, in the near future, when he does have his own family and children and grandchildren, that he will pass it down, all of this, integrity and core values that I have been teaching him all of his life. And I am so proud of him, by the way, my son. The next one is consistency. Small inconsistency create big cracks. You gotta stay consistent. You gotta have to stay consistent with your integrity too. Safety. People only tell the truth when they feel safe. This is so common. People only tell the truth when they feel safe. I don't like this. It's like a pendulum, go back and forth, back and forth. See, yeah, I just want to, sugarcoat it to the people who want to hear this and that. I'm not into that. I am not into that. That's not leadership at all. It's like kissing ass. Yeah, I'm going to say that. And why would I want to allow that to people? I don't even want that. Self-audit. Always try to pause and ask yourself, where am I eroding trust today? That's a self-audit that you got to do. Self-reflect, I call it self-audit. Ask yourself a question. Where am I eroding trust today? All right, that's a wrap. And I just want to leave you guys that. My final word, this is not a leadership trend. This is not a soft skill. This is life support for your organization. Also for your personal life, your relationship, whether a relationship for your career, for your professional or your personal life. When trust collapses, everything else follows. Leadership isn't title. It is not a LinkedIn headline. It is, however, your ability to carry trust under fire consistently. This is a trust factor. Stay sharp, stay ready, and lead under fire. I just want to leave you with this. If this episode hits home, guys, share it with one person who leads. Share it to your network. I know you guys have one or two people that probably would appreciate for this information. Follow Leadership365. Subscribe to the Trust Factor series and stay tuned because the full Trust Factor workshop, my team and I are putting this together in a workshop. 5 days or 10 days is pretty much launching very soon in the near future. Hopefully by the end of the summer 2025. Terima kasih sekali lagi karena telah hadir bersama saya dan mendengarkan podcast Leadership 365 365 saya hari ini. Semoga kita dapat berjumpa lagi segera. Next time, mohon bagikan episode ini ke jaringan Anda, to your network. Terima kasih. Merci encore d'être là avec moi d'écouter mon podcast Leadership 365 et partager cet épisode avec vos proches. Merci beaucoup. And gracias, you guys. Gracias una vez más por acompañarme y escuchar. I have a little bit tongue twisting on that to say, but escuchar mi podcast de liderazgo, leadership 365. Espero verte pronto. Comparte este episodio con tus contactos. Gracias to your network. Gracias, muchas gracias. Thank you once again, you guys, for being here with me, Nicky Dare, and listening to my Leadership 365 podcast. Hope to see you again soon. Love to hear your feedback on this. Leave us your comment. Share this to your social media network. Please share this episode to your network anywhere. Hopefully LinkedIn, because I'm there. I have a large network there. YouTube, anywhere really. X platform, Instagram, wherever you are, wherever you will be. As always, stay sharp, stay bold, stay ready, stay prepared. Watch your 3, 6, 9, and also 12. Stay safe, guys. Take the best care of yourself. God bless. Thank you again. This is Nicky Dare.